Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome to the channel. My name is Michelle and I hope that you are going to enjoy all the personal development content that comes onto this channel. So have you ever wondered, possibly when you were younger, or it could be right now, why you just don't click with certain people, why you just don't fit into certain groups, and why you just don't gel with other people? And today we are going to talk about why you should not fit in. Now, I was thinking about this quite a few days ago, and like literally just thinking about my childhood and how much I wanted to be part of certain groups that now looking back I'm grateful I was never part of. And this is just what kind of inspired this conversation that we are going to have today. So before we can actually get into the topic, you guys know we need to first understand what really fitting in is. And I would define fitting in as actually being part of, or gelling, or just being part of a certain group that you would really like to be part of, and being like everyone else. So following the wave wherever the wave is going, or following the trend wherever the trend is going. And that's what we normally see fitting in as. And I know that there's quite a number of people that actually struggle with this. And I think I remember at some point as well, I felt like maybe I'm just not fine enough, or whatever the case is. And I think I'm growing to realize that there is actually a special reason why you should never fit into different groups, or why you should never fit into what society wants to put us in. For us to be able to understand this, we need to realize that fitting in is something that has been drilled into our minds from literally growing up. So you look at how we are raised, we look at how we'll go to preschool, how we'll go to high school, how we all need to wear the same uniform. This means that we all need to be all alike, how we all need to speak a certain way, to write a certain way, to do things a certain way. And you realize that we all kind of grow up from primary school to high school, from the high school maybe coming into tertiary a little bit, but all of our school system actually makes us want to be alike. So for instance, when you go to school, there are certain careers that you are told to definitely pursue because these are the ones that will make you money, and then there's other careers that they just like, oh, possibly not, you can, you might, if you run out of options, but these are like the top things. And I've actually realized that first of all, it's important to realize that you shouldn't feel bad for the need to fit in, because this is something that we have been drilled with from the moment that we're growing up. When you play with other kids, if you are in class and you are too loud, you don't fit in, so therefore you get punished because you don't fit in. And these are environments that we've definitely all kind of grown up in, when you are in a family and things are done a certain way and you don't want to do that. Or for instance, you're just not inclined that way and you are punished because you don't fit into what the clique is. And as we grow up, we realize more and more that not fitting in is actually a punishment, or that's how rather it is placed into our minds. And then we try so hard to fit in, and majority of people have gotten in quite a lot of trouble because they've tried to fit it into cliques that they really shouldn't have been trying to fit in the first place. Now let's talk about why you really shouldn't fit in. Number one, I definitely think that fitting in kind of strips you away from your individuality. Now let me explain. When you fit in, you're trying to do things the way that other people do things. You're trying to speak the way that other people speak. So for instance, if you're trying to fit into a clique of friends that believe a certain way, you are trying to be like those people, and you're trying to contain those values. And what fitting in actually does quite a majority of the time is, like I'm saying, it strips you off your individuality, but more than anything, it actually strips you off the opportunity to realize your potential. Now if you're fitting into a certain genre, or you're fitting into a certain way that people do things, you actually are closing off your brain to actually doing the biggest things, or things greater than people have done them before. And if you realize that a lot of magnificent people that have done the most encouraging and the most outbreaking things, you realize that these are people that did not want to fit in. These are people that were willing to do things just their way because they were so convinced that this is the way that they're going to introduce. I mean, if you look at different innovators, if you look at people that created the light bulb, for instance, these are people that said, I'm not complacent with the way that things are done, but I want to do things greater, and they did groundbreaking things. Now I've started asking myself this question majority of the time, to say that, do I really want to do groundbreaking things, or do I want to fit in? Because if you want to fit in, groundbreaking is the furthest thing that you need to start thinking about. But if you want to do groundbreaking things, you need to realize that sometimes you are going to have to walk away from the crowd so you can do your own thing. But fitting in, guys, before anything, it comes into the mind first, and it comes with you realizing that you are an individual and actually embracing that, as opposed to people that don't fit in majority of the times are leaders. And there's nothing wrong wrong with you not being a leader or you not being inclined that way, but what you need to realize is you do not have to fit in. And it's something that I said in quite a previous videos when I actually did a video talking about what books to read. And one of the most important things that I laid into that video was that you don't necessarily have to read the books that everyone is recommending or the books that is being spoken to by your faith, but you need to read the books that actually are aligning with you. And majority of that message just basically says that before you get into any wave, before you get into any trend, you need to first look back and you need to actually evaluate. And we've seen this majority of the time on our social media platforms, where just because something is trending, people want to jump onto that and they say the wrong things and then they get in all sorts of trouble. Another thing that fitting in does for you is it actually creates boundaries that do not belong to you. So fitting in, what it does is you now start going with the fears and the boundaries and the mental boundaries that these people in the sphere of circle that actually have that don't necessarily belong to you, and then you limit yourself based on what these people are saying. So for instance, if you've been in an environment where they're like, oh, people here don't become doctors, or people here don't get successful, or people in this community, people in this family, whatever the case is, and if you try to fit in, if you try to blend in with that, that's basically how you become and who you become, because these people are feeding in all these things into your mind that you do not necessarily need to be out there, and you just need to fit in with the crowd. And there's an amazing saying that you guys know, it's said quite a lot of times, and I've heard this multiple times, and it says, why fit in when you're born to stand out? And you need to realize that majority of you guys are meant to stand out and you are not meant to fit in. This means that you are not meant to go through the crowds. And I don't know if it's only you, but I don't know if you've realized that there are certain positions where every time you've tried to fit in, it just has never worked. If you try to be in situations, if you try to be in crowds that do certain things, it just never worked for you, mainly because that's just it. You are born to stand out. You are born to be that light. And when we go back to the word of God says a city built on a hill cannot be hidden, and you need to start looking at yourself that way to realize that this is not the time to fit in. This is the time to stand out. And how do you stand out? You start by knowing yourself. You start by becoming one with yourself, in a sense that you are realizing what your true potentials are without big spheres. And majority of the time when you talk about fitting, people think about groups, trends, social media, and all the things, but you need to realize that sometimes fitting in is basically just within the small circle that you have, and you need to start evaluating that for yourself and say, in this friendship, in this group of people, in this whatever it is that I am, in this profession, at work, where do I stand? Am I fitting in, or am I fighting to stand out? And guys, also understand that standing out is not like a violent thing. It's not I want to know. Standing out just really can't be so subtle, but a lot of people would be able to tell that you are actually standing out amongst a lot of people. And this basically means that in whatever it is that you are doing, or whatever it is that you believe that you are called to do, you can definitely do it. And I know sometimes we don't always fit in because we don't know what we're meant to do. We don't always want to fit in, mainly because we don't really understand. We know, but sometimes it's because we fear how big and how great everything that we've always wanted to do is, and we realize maybe it's not attainable. Maybe because no one else has done it before, it's really not that much attainable. So we try as hard as we can to actually fit in amongst every single thing that a lot of people are doing. But what you need to realize is you are destined to definitely become a lot more greater and a lot more bigger, and you just need to start following your path and the path that God has entrusted you to walk into, as opposed to fitting in. And I mean, we can always look back into the word of God and look at the story of Joseph, for instance. Joseph's courageous story is based on the fact that he decided not to fit in, but he decided to walk the journey that God had decided for him to. And I want you to take this video as a point of encouragement to say that you can definitely be who you want to be, but most importantly, always remember that why should you fit in when you were born to stand out? And irregardless what's happening right now around the world, you need to still realize that there are ideas in your head, there are things in your mind, there are, assignments that you have been assigned to that only you can do. There's groundbreaking work that is only waiting for you. And until you stand up and you actually, lift whatever it is God has given you. So realize that fitting in is dangerous and fitting in is a short game, but standing out is a long game. And more than anything, guys, majority of the people that you look up to, majority of the people that you possibly want to become or want to be like, are people that have made that decision to stand out. So from this video, what I want you to take out is that you do not need to fit in, and you actually shouldn't even. You need to start looking at what is different about you and start embracing that, start wearing that, start walking that every single day of your your life, because your tribe will find you. So stop trying to walk into tribes that you want to, start behaving like. And guys, this can also go for the people that you look up to. Sometimes we look up to people based on certain characteristics. It's not necessary for us to want to walk the way that they're walking, but we are meant to take that as a point of inspiration, as a point of motivation, and wear it the way that we wear it best, and walk it the way that we walk it best, so that our best can actually come out, and not their best, not any other person's best, not your family's best, whatever the case is, but your best actually stand out. So from this moment onwards, I want you to walk with your head high, realizing that there's no need to fit in, and you can definitely do this your way, and you can definitely do this the way that God has assigned you to. And the most important thing, guys, with in closing, actually, that you can start walking on, is that depend on God to stand out. God knows you more than you know yourself, and we've spoken about this on this channel multiple times. And the more that you're connected with him, the more confidence you have with actually standing out, because sometimes we don't have confidence to stand out because we don't really know who we are. But we can start walking that journey by actually being close to our maker, and by actually wanting and yearning for that journey, because guys, God will actually lead us into those things that we want to get into. So with all of that said, I hope that this video has been super fruitful for you, and I hope that you have definitely taken something from it. And if you did, and if you enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. And remember, we are always here, and this is a community that we engage and we have these conversations. So if you've got any insights, or you've got anything that you want to share further, or possibly a testimony that you want to share concerning this topic that we've just spoken about, please do put it on the comment section below. And guys, like I always say, who knows, somebody might definitely learn from your journey. So I love you guys so much, and have yourself an awesome one. I'll see you next time.